So thank you everybody for coming to this second Ludic Method Soirée, but very first Ludic Method Soirée here at the Vordertorgenstraße 7 at the University of Applied Arts, the Angewandte here. My name is Alexander Demianisch. I'm only briefly introducing or starting or welcoming this evening on behalf of the Zentrum Fokus Forschung, which hosts also the Artistic Research PhD program, and we're really happy to have Margarete Jahrmann as a professor for the Artistic Research PhD program, and she is also the initiator of this very event, and she invited also our guest today with the performance, and regarding this there will be further information now provided by first Barbara Putz-Plecko and then second by Margarete. So thank you very much for all of you coming here today.
Yeah, well, I want to extend a very warm welcome also from my side. Alexander now told you already about what I had. I wanted to tell you as well that we are now starting with this new Ludic Society series, and I especially thank you, Margarete, that you have created this new format. Margarete Jahrmann is, as you have heard already, a professor at our PhD program for artistic research, and she's also professor at the Zurich University of the Arts. And there she is especially, her teaching is aligned to game art and game design. And this is a very interesting focus for us as well, as we are on the way of creating a new study program. So Margarete, your expertise is very precious for us. And as you're a person who has been working for a long time in that field of game art and game design, I know that you are very well connected in the community, and I think as a result you introduce us now to Shu Lea. And let's welcome her. I prepared some words to introduce Shu Lea, although I think that you read already about her work or know her work. You got it introduced by Margarete through the text she wrote supporting this evening. But Shu Lea, I really want to welcome you warmly. And for all people who need some information, I want to let them know that you are a renowned multimedia artist, a filmmaker and the creator of your own science fiction genre, of nuclear cinema, and as a net pioneer. You were recognized and successfully already in the 90s. For example, with your project Brandon, which was the first web art to be commissioned and collected by the Guggenheim Museum, New York, and you, since then you have developed an impressive body of work. So some of you might have had the chance to see Shu Lea's work in her solo show in Venice, as a Taiwanese contribution to the Venice Biennale. It's a project that critically reflects upon the transformation of surveillance techniques and investigates in criminal cases of sexual provocation and gender affirmation, and now I quote, with the aim to construct collective counter-accounts of sexuality where transpunk fiction, queer and anti-colonial imaginations hack the operating system of the history of sexual subjection. And taking up elements of this piece, you created for tonight a performative re-enactment. Is it true? No? Something else?
Create, but it's a very improv. We were all,
Actually, tonight we decided to take a different order. First, I am gonna do a lecture. Margarete will also introduce Ludic Society, which actually I follow for a long time. So it's great that Margarete bring me here, and then we got reconnected, and I got to know her new working environment. And of course, I'm very concerned with the Ludic Society can continue. So I'm very happy to be presented in this context. Tonight I would particularly want to talk about 3x3x6. This is the exhibition I'm doing at the Venice Biennale until now. I think it's closing on November 24. I was gonna stage this as a surprise, like, you know, basically this space is now set up as a core space. Because somehow related to the work I'm doing, I have studied a lot of court cases, particularly about crime committed because of sex or gender. And so today, when Margarete invited me in to particularly do a performative performance or talk, performative talk, I decided to take one of the cases that I do the study with for the project I'm showing now at Venice Biennale. When I research on the Venice Biennale show, I actually study many court cases. And I managed to either talk to the lawyers or get the court documents. These are very boring, serious, like long court documents. But I took one particular case tonight to invite a certain reader to read, and we're gonna read this court case like a performance piece by the volunteer here, and without you knowing anything, we're just gonna see how this goes. And then after this, we will do the lecture. Let's kind of remove the order right now, reverse the order. Just one thing that we will introduce the precision, the process of the court, introduce the case and all that. Particularly because of the theme of tonight's talk is called gender play, gender FSSK, ING, and gender fucking. So we actually gonna try to play with the kind of gender switching. So men is played by women, women played by men. Of course, we should never ever limit our gender into binary only. But from who we have now, we switching the gender, just so that you know. But should we begin the court hearing?
A case of rape by deception. Jennifer Saunders, age 18, sentenced to 6 years in prison for 2 counts of indecent assault. Doncaster County Court, 1991. Saunders, a young woman, was tried and convicted of a sexual assault on the grounds that she had only obtained the consent of her female sexual partners through serious misrepresentation, namely by passing as a male at the time. Regina V. Saunders. Excerpts of the official court documents during the Crown Court trial at Doncaster County in 1991. In appearance, the prosecution, Mr. P. Kelson. For the defense, Mr. M. Robert Shaw. The complainant, Rebecca Jane Andrews. Rebecca. The defendant, Jennifer Lynne Saunders. Reference reading, Rape by Deception and the Policing of Gender and Nationality Borders by Aaron Gross, published at Tulan Journal of Law and Sexuality. A review of sexual orientation and gender identity in the law, volume 24, 2015.
Members of the jury, the defendant, Jennifer Lynne Saunders, stands charged on this indictment, which contains 2 counts. On the first count, she's charged with indecent assault, and the particular of the offense area are the one day between the 27th day of January 1990 and the 29th day of May 1990. She indecently assaulted Rebecca Jane Andrews, a female person. In the second count, she's charged with indecent assault, and the particulars of the offense are that on the 50th day of May 1990, she indecently assaulted Helen Louise Edwards, a female person. To this indictment, she has pleaded not guilty, and it is your charge to say, having heard all the evidence, whether she's guilty or not. Rebecca Jane Andrews, sworn, examined by Mr. Carlson.
Now, your full name and address, please.
Oh, please sit in the seat. Please sworn me in.
Yeah.
Please come.
Oh,
Don't say
That's fine.
That's me.
that's fine. Now, your full name and address, please.
It's Rebecca Jane Andrews, 54th Browning Road, Herringthorpe, Rotherham.
Can you tell us your date of birth, please?
19th of the 5th, 1974.
I want to take you back to the 27th of January of 1990. I think on that day, which was a Saturday, you went to the Labour Club, Nelson Street, Rotherham, because there was a birthday party for your mom. Is that right?
Yes,
Let me ask you this. Did you meet somebody there during the course of the party?
yes,
And did that person tell you their name?
yes.
And what was the name that the person gave you?
James Lee Saunders.
Well, during that evening, what did you and James do together? How did you get to see each other or know each other?
We were playing pool at first in the pool room, and he was sat across. Then they asked us if we wanted, me and my friend, if we wanted a game of doubles. So I decided to play pool with them. Then I started dancing and talking. We arranged to meet the next day
Where did you meet?
outside the Labour Club,
Where did you go after you had met?
to my house.
What did you think of James having seen him the night before? What were your feelings towards him?
I just knew him as a boy.
How did you feel? How did you feel towards him?
Attracted.
Well, you help us with what developed. Did anything happen between you that night?
We kissed the first night, and that was all.
Just a moment.
And talked.
You kissed and talked. How often after that did you see each other?
Every day.
Every day. Did you find out anything about James, about his family?
He told me he had a sister called Jennifer Saunders, and she lived in Lincoln. And she was adopted because his mom and dad died in a car crash with his brothers.
Well, now, going into the relationship. As time is passing now, it is not the first date or the second date, but going into time, how did your feelings towards James develop?
Strongly.
And how deeply would you describe your feelings for him all at that time? Did you like him as a friend, or like him more than a friend? Did you love him? What sort of feelings did you have as things developed?
Like you do when you go out with somebody.
Like you do when you go out with somebody.
Yes.
What sort of clothes do you remember he used to wear?
Baggy ones. Shorts, t-shirts, jeans, jumpers. Always baggy t-shirts.
Well, you have told us about kissing on the first night. Tell us a little bit more about what developed as time went on, as you got closer to each other. How did the physical relationship develop, if at all?
Into a sexual one.
You do not have to perhaps go into too much detail. What sorts of things did James do to you?
Touched me
Touched you where?
on my breast.
Did he touch you anywhere else? Do not be embarrassed about telling us a little of the detail. We need to know a little of what happened. Where else did he touch you?
On my vagina.
Was that just on the outside?
Both out and in.
And when we are talking about touched, are we talking about hand and fingers?
Yes.
At that stage, what about you touching James? Did you ever try and touch him?
Yes.
What happened when you tried to touch him?
He just froze and would not let me go inside his pants.
What did you think of that?
Nothing. I just accepted, respected his wishes.
And you know what an erection is?
Yes.
Did you ever see whether he appeared to have one of those?
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that. Tell us a bit about how you came to see that, what the circumstances were.
He had underpants on.
He had what?
Underpants on.
When you had your sexual relations, whatever they were, was the light ever on?
No.
And when he was on top of you, did you kiss?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit more about what happened next. What you did to James, or what James did to you.
Touching me.
Where was he touching you?
On my breast.
Carry on.
And my vagina. But then he... I don't know how to say it.
You do not want to say it?
I don't know how to say it.
Alright. Use any words you like. Do not be worried about it. Tell us what happened.
Began to make love to me.
I did not hear that.
Began to make love to me.
How did that feel to you when he began to make love to you?
When he was putting it in, it was sharp at the end.
Did it hurt?
Yes.
Or cause you any pain?
It hurt and I pushed him away.
Carry on.
I asked if he had got the banana because sharp felt like that. And he said he was going to shock me.
It felt sharp like the end of a banana, and he said he was going to shock you. Well, what happened then? What did he say back, or...
He said that I have embarrassed him.
Go on.
I asked him why. He said that when he was 14, he could not ejaculate, so he had to leave. So he had to have a tube put down to help him. And it was a tube that was sharp.
Tube put down where?
His penis.
Did you believe that?
I don't know anything about males when they cannot ejaculate, so I did not know.
Did you have any cause not to believe James?
No.
Well, what happened after you had the talk?
I asked him why he was holding it, and he said it was dangerous because if the tube broke inside him, it would cut the insides.
And tell us a bit about, you have just had to tell us he was holding it.
Yes.
Was it all the time when he was inside you?
Yes.
Had one of his hands down there, did he?
Yes.
Well, tell us what happened next.
He just kept trying and it kept hurting and it got so much up. It really hurt.
Did you carry on or did you give up?
Give up. We kept trying on several occasions.
When actually succeeded, when he actually managed to get inside you, how long would it last? How long would he be moving up and down on you?
I can't remember.
Well, now, you just have a look in this book for us. Will you tell us what it says?
Read it out.
Yes, please.
All the time I'm near you, my heart is loud. Your heart is little and sweet, just like my feet, strong and nice, just like the one I have got to love. But remember, you are ugly and sweet, just like when we first meet in the street. I know I want you, and you wanted me. And look what has turned out. 2 young teenagers in love. I said you were ugly. I was only kidding. So stand on your feet when you need me. And you will see the real me. And not my feet, not my teeth, but the real me. So let's meet under the sheet and be as sweet as each other.
Well, now, Rebecca, can I just ask you some more questions about the time when you and James were together? Did you ever try to get your hand down his shorts?
Yes.
Did you ever manage to get your hand into his shorts?
No.
And whilst you have been trying to get your hands into the shorts, did you ever feel anything unusual or anything at all?
What seemed to feel like a penis, yes.
Have you ever felt anything else about his body?
Yes.
What?
I once put my hand on his chest and he pushed me away. And I felt a lump and he says, I asked him what it was and he said he had got a boil on the left side of his chest.
And what did you think about that?
And then I said, well, it's not that big. And he said he had got cancer in the chest. Having not seen cancer in the chest, I did not know what it looked like.
When you were talking about his chest, did you have any thoughts? Hear you wondering about him at all?
Yes, I wondered what it was, but he just kept saying it was cancer in the chest.
Did you ever at any stage wonder whether or not James might not be a boy? Might in fact be a girl?
No.
Did he ever admit that he was a girl?
No.
Would you have had any sexual relation with that person if you would have known that they were a girl?
No. None whatsoever.
Rebecca Jahrmann, cross-examination by Mr. Robert Shaw for the defense. So you make a switch. So it's now Rebecca Jane Andrews and Mr. Robert Shaw for the defense.
You can still
It's
play.
begun.
Have you ever referred to Jimmy by a female name?
There was once when he said he was messing about and said Jenny, so I used to say Jenny, Jenny. Then he got snappy and angry and said, stop calling me Jenny, my name's Jimmy.
You knew full well this person, Jimmy, was a girl.
No, I did not.
Did not you? You will not accept it because you feel to some extent humiliated?
I never knew it was a girl.
You felt humiliated because you had given the impression to your parents that you had formed a relationship with another male. That's right, is not it?
I felt disgusted when I found out that it was a female.
Pardon?
I said I felt disgusted when I found out that it was a female.
I suggest you were embarrassed when Jimmy revealed that
Jimmy did not reveal that it was a female.
he was a female. At the stage, you told this person, Jimmy, to carry on pretending that you were boy and girlfriend because of the embarrassment that you would feel because of your parents.
That is not true.
You were 15 years old at the time.
Yes.
You are very frightened of your parents, aren't you?
Sorry?
You are very frightened of your parents.
No.
You are very frightened to reveal that this Jenny was in fact a female.
I did not know it was a female.
You pleased with this Jimmy to continue to pretend that you were boy and girlfriend because of what your parents might think.
No.
You were too embarrassed to reveal what the true situation was. That is right, is not it?
I knew him as a boy and that was it.
How often do you say you had sexual intercourse with the person Jimmy?
Numerous occasions.
Sorry?
Numerous occasions.
Are you talking about once a week, twice a week, or what? Be a bit more definite.
Pardon?
Can you be a little bit more precise as to how many times you say you had sexual intercourse with Jimmy?
About 6 times a week.
About 6 times a week.
Yes.
On each of those occasions, do you say that something was inserted inside your vagina by the person?
What I thought was a penis, yes.
So I make it quite clear. I am pursuing this line of cross-examination quite clear to you that I'm suggesting that on no occasion had you had any sort of sexual intercourse with Jimmy. Do you understand?
Did have sexual intercourse.
Yes, say it was anyways in the dark.
Always in the dark.
And you thought throughout that a penis was being inserted inside you?
Well, what else do boys have?
I do not want to embarrass you any more than I have to in the circumstances, but you say, on none of these occasions did you ever see
On none of the occasions.
this person's penis?
Never.
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 And each and every occasion you're saying that she pretended you?
He penetrated me.
Did you ever touch his private parts at all whilst you were doing this?
Not whilst we were doing it, but...
Sorry?
Not whilst we were doing it.
To use your words, on occasion you were making love, you never touched any of his private part at all?
Before, yes, but not while making love.
And which private parts have you touched before?
His penis.
You thought it was a penis.
Yes.
You touched it?
Yes.
I do not want to cause you embarrassed, but when this thing you thought was a penis was inside you, how long did it last for?
I do not know.
Sorry?
I do not know.
Well, think back. How long on these occasions, when you say you were penetrated, how long did you say
Cannot remember.
this penetration lasted for?
I cannot remember.
Sorry?
I cannot remember.
How long did this love-making session last for?
I cannot remember.
Or sessions?
Cannot remember.
Are we talking about a couple of minutes, quarter of an hour, half an hour?
I do not know.
You do not know.
Quite a while, but I do not know.
The reason you do not know is because it simply never took place, did it?
The reason I do not know is because I did not sit there with a bloody stopwatch.
It's a while ago. This matter. Something you are not likely to forget if it happens, are you?
No.
Sorry?
It did happen, and I do not think I will ever forget.
Finally, I must suggest your evidence is just simply a pack of lies, is not it?
No.
To use the phrase, hell hath no fury like a lady scorned. In some way you are trying to get back at Jennifer Lynne Saunders because of the humiliation you felt through the fact it is now revealed to you very early on that you had found an attraction to a female.
At no time did I know that he was a female.
Jennifer Lynne Saunders, sworn, examined by Mr. Robert Shaw.
Is your full name Jennifer Lynne Saunders?
Yes,
And how old are you?
18.
I want you to cast your memory back now, some time ago, to January of last year. Now, in January of last year, did you attend a party at the Labour Club on Saturday, 27th January?
I did.
Now, on that occasion when you went to the Labour Club, can you describe what sort of clothes you were wearing?
I had a pair of light blue jeans on and a green striped shirt and a pair of Reebok trainers.
What was your hairstyle like?
Just a bit shorter than it is now, flicked at the side.
Did you wear any coat on?
No coat at all.
And who did you go to the Labour Club with?
My friend from Rush House, Peter.
Now, it is not in dispute that, having gone to Labour Club on that evening, did you at some stage begin talking to a young lady by name of Rebecca Jane Andrews?
At some stage, stage, yes.
And is it correct that you were introduced to her as being called Jimmy?
By my friend Peter, yes.
Now, in your own words, what was the reason for that? Why were you introduced as being called Jimmy?
It was a joke.
What do you mean by a joke? What were you trying to be funny about?
Nothing, I didn't say it. It was Peter that said it.
Were you in any way trying to put yourself forward as being a male at the stage?
No.
Do you accept that Rebecca Jane Andrews at the stage gained the impression that you were male?
Yes.
Did you at any stage that evening inform her that you were in fact a female and you were not called Jimmy?
No.
Why was that?
Because we were not talking that much. We just had a game of pool and that was it.
Did you gain any impression during the course of that evening at the Labour Club then that she some way fancied you?
Yes, she did.
You think she did?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
Did you at any stage from the point onwards try and pass yourself off as being a male by the name of Jimmy?
No.
Did you get the impression that Rebecca thought you were Jimmy?
Oh, yes.
How had she gained that impression?
Probably because from the night before I was dressed, how I was dressed, and I had my shirt on and my jeans.
On these occasions, when you were in the company of Rebecca, did you ever kiss her?
Never.
Did you ever put your arms around her?
Never.
Cuddle her?
Never.
Did you have any sort of intimate sexual contact with her?
Never.
You recall her evidence yesterday. She said in evidence that after a while, she started having sexual intercourse with you. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand what was meant by sexual intercourse?
Yes.
On occasion, you inserted something into her vagina. Did that ever happen?
Not once. Never.
Did you ever discuss with her having boils on your chest?
Never. No.
Or having had an operation which involved a tube being placed near your penis?
Never. Never.
Did you ever have conversations with which were on a sexual nature?
Never.
What type of clothes were you wearing when you were in company of Rebecca?
Either jeans or shorts, different colored t-shirts and a jumper, and if it was cold, I would sometimes wear my coat.
Some witnesses have said you seem to be wearing a coat virtually all time with a baggy type t-shirt.
I only wore my coat when it was cold.
Did there ever come a stage when you finally got through to Rebecca that you were in fact a female?
Yes.
How long after that first meeting was it that you finally...
Well, it was about 3 or 4 weeks.
And what did you tell her on that occasion?
I finally got it through to her that I was a girl as I proved it to her.
And did she accept the situation?
She accepted the situation, but she was so frightened of her parents that she did not want them to know.
So what happened after that?
After I finally got through to her, she kept begging me to pretend I was her boyfriend, and at first I thought it was a bit stupid, and she said please, because she was embarrassed about her parents, and I did.
Now, the jury have been given copies in a bundle of various poems and letters which you were alleged to have written to Rebecca. Of course, you have seen copies of those letters. Do you accept you have written?
I accept I have written them, yes.
The letters contain remarks such as, I want to get married and have a family.
I accept I wrote that, yes.
Things of that nature. Why did you write those letters?
I wrote those letters as Rebecca used to say to me, write me letters to convince my mom and dad that you're a boy just in case they find out you're a girl.
Dear Seb, you also signed Jimmy on various birthday cards.
Yes, as she was pretending to be my girlfriend, she asked me to send cards to her family with James or Jimmy.
Moving on. After say you had agreed to carry on this pretense of being a boy and girlfriend, did you ever kiss Rebecca in front of her parents at all?
Not once.
Or any other sort of familiar contact?
Not once.
Did you ever cuddle her?
Not once.
Embrace her?
What?
Did you ever put your arms around her?
Not once.
Did you ever go into the gents' toilet?
Not once.
How did the relationship with Rebecca come to an end?
Well, it was 4 or 5 months after I just had enough. I had my own boyfriend and I wanted to get out of it because it was getting more or less serious and I could not take anymore. So it was spring bank holiday and I said, look Rebecca, I've had enough. I'm not playing your silly games no more, and I just walked out.
Now, Saunders, moving on to Helen Louise Edwards. It is alleged that on the 15th May of last year, you incidentally assaulted that young lady at a flat. Did anything happen between yourself and Helen Louise Edwards whilst you were alone together in that flat?
No.
Did you, as alleged by the prosecution, take the young girl into a bedroom of that flat and proceed to have sexual intercourse with her?
No.
Did you ever become aware of any blood stains on any bedding
No.
inside that flat?
Only when I got arrested by the police.
We know you were arrested and later interviewed at the police station. Finally, Miss Saunders, did you on any occasion set up to pass yourself off as a male?
No, at the time I was courting.
With the intention of deceiving those two females, Rebecca Jane Andrews and Helen Louise Edwards, into thinking you were a male?
No.
Did you at any stage ever have sexual intercourse with those two females?
Never.
Did you ever indulge at all in any sort of sexual contact with those two girls?
No.
Now it's Jennifer Lynne Saunders, cross-examined by Mr. Kelson.
Those photographs were taken on at least 4 separate occasions during January to May when you were with Rebecca, or she was with you, whatever. Do you accept that on all those photographs you do look like a boy?
Not really, no.
And I think it is right to say, is it not, that during that period of time you never dressed in women's clothing? Did you?
My clothes I had were unisex.
Did you have any skirts or dresses?
Not really, no.
And you never wore makeup, did you?
Sometimes I might have done.
Wanted to look like a boy, did you not?
No, I wanted to look like myself.
What do you say you showed to Rebecca to show her you were a girl?
I just showed her my vagina and my boobs.
Did you?
Yes.
What do you say you did? Took your clothes off in front of her?
Just pulled them up and down.
For 3 or 4 months you pretended to be her boyfriend.
I showed Rebecca Andrews my parts to prove to her that I was not a boy and I was called Jenny Saunders.
Do you remember after the incident with Helen that is being alleged, did you ever insert anything into Helen's vagina?
I didn't do it. I'm not mental.
Jennifer, is the reason that you are pleading not guilty because you are frightened people think you are mental?
No, not at all.
The court adjourned at 4:10 p.m.
Thank you. And thank you to all the players and to the experience design that you allowed us to take part now. How do we make the link now? What it has to do, how all this experience is executed in technologies. This was a Ludic Method experience that what we started right now, where we discussed also in different discourse evenings already pre-announcements of all these topics that are connected to gender bias, which is also implemented in technologies. We had improvisational discourse already on these things, and I show you where we should be right now, and that's also what face tracking and movement tracking is normally doing to you, and this is the place where we make the Ludic Soirées in the context of the artistic research. And if we have a tracking and the topic of the technologically calculated image, that was when I was communicating with Shu Lea and inviting her in summer for this evening, I said, I have to prepare for that somehow. And somehow I have to test what it means to interact with technologies. And it doesn't really look like technology right now, but if we go on with the tracking, you see that the images are tracked. I had 3 cameras, one mobile phone, one normal camera, and the second mobile, and only the movements inside the garden of the artistic research program was, only I was activated, only my movement was tracked. And it was also somehow classified, I would say. And so that's what we do out there in the garden, in the Prater, and I hope that you all guys come to the next event that we will have right there in the green, and that's where Shu Lea really should be also in summer, I hope. But we go on discussing, and as the time already is running, you see time accelerated and also time multiplied, technologically multiplied. And that's why I go a bit quicker, because I think the tracking moment is the best when you see. This is no photo or film manipulation filter. It is really calculated with a MATLAB program that some of the guests here know pretty well as well. Pretty well as well. And also the movement is tracked. And I think this is important as last sentence here, because it's also about the body. It's not only about face recognition, it is about movement patterns that are analyzed and classified. How does a female work? For example, also in a 3D there is a gender switch in shooter games often. How does it look if the guy walks like the girl walks in this environment? This is a common habit. It's easy just to change the shape or the skin there. And so this is what we go into. How is now this artificial intelligence tracking, classification linked? That's what I want to give us an idea. We were experiencing the boring thing of the trial, but also the classification itself is something which is boring and which puts us sometimes to sleep and meditation. And let's see if you can give us the direct link, I would say. And now I hand over to Shu Lea, and I'm happy that you're here.
Thank you. Oh, that was actually quite amazing to have the court case read out. I have read really quite a lot of these cases, but never really have the chance to have the real people reading it out. Thank you so much for the people. We can talk more later. In the case that I have actually spent a lot of my work really digging into the whole gender sexual studies, and particularly this work was commissioned by the Taipei Fine Arts Museum in Taiwan. Knowing that I was born in Taiwan, but I have left Taiwan a long time ago. I live in New York 20 years. I now live in Paris. I've been in Europe more than 15 years. Almost 20 years now too. So being commissioned by a museum in Taiwan to be a solo artist to present it, to be presented at Venice Biennale was quite was quite surprised for me when I received the news. However, then it was a process of what would I do, and I was able to. It was a very strange commission. Actually, first they chose me, and then they said you can choose your curator. So I was like, okay. So I was thinking, who is the curator I want to work with, and after certain research of the particular direction I want to go for presenting this work, I decided to work with philosopher, writer, culture writer, also doing a lot of gender sexual studies, Paul B. Preciado, so who became my curator. We have done a lot of research together, and the title of the piece is called 3x3x6. Actually, if I just explain a little bit, 3x6 actually refer to a particular high-tech surveillance prison, which is 3 meters by 3 meters. No, it's actually 9 square meter with 6 surveillance camera. It's a little room, 9 square meter, that will have no window and has 6 surveillance camera installed. Imagine. So 9 meter, of course, can be different configuration. It could be 3x3 equal 9, or it could be 4x5 times 2 meter, so that kind of thing. Anyway, so here's the title. I'm going to recount the installation a bit quicker because I didn't imagine the court case actually run a long time, but it's great. Okay, so the commission came with the particular location, the pavilion for Taiwan Pavilion has always been in this prison, Palazzo del Prigioni, which is right at San Marco, and which is actually also connected to the bigger prison palace called Yucca. As when I was doing the research on this particular prison, which was built in 1589, I realized that the prison used to house Casanova. Of course, Casanova is quite a controversial case. We kind of thinking about maybe he was prisoned because of sexual behavior. There's rumor. I did a lot of research on this, and there's rumor that maybe he's having sex with some rich people's daughter, or he was actually later being put into prison basically without reason, or he doesn't even know why he was in prison, but we'll get into that. When I keep looking at this particular site, used to be a prison, and I thought about in earlier work, the piece we were talking about, Brandon, 1998-1999, which was a web project for the Guggenheim Museum. And in that particular case, Brandon, the web project is very easy to access. It's just Brandon.Guggenheim.org is still accessible. When I was doing Brandon, I was into a particular, also a real story of a young girl who actually also, well, maybe we would call her more the transgender person. Was a woman, then kind of dressed up as a man, and so finally he was always hanging out with a man, and he has a girlfriend, but then he was found out on New Year's Eve, 1993, and he was actually raped and murdered on that same night. That case was really striking for me at the time, 1993. And there's also, this is back in the 90s, just to recap a little bit, back in the 90s, it was also like we were all like playing on the internet, we all have our avatar, we are all cyborgs, so that piece of Brandon finally is a kind of fusion of the actual and virtual space. I did take the case of Brandon Tina as an actual case, and I also took a lot of cases on the internet of kind of cyber crime, cyber rape. Yeah. So indeed, back in the 90s, I was already dealing with the idea of the crime and punishment, or as the Foucault say, the punish, I think it's discipline and punish, yeah. So at that time, I started doing the research, as also in Foucault's indication, about the particular prison, panopticon, Jeremy Bentham's panopticon, built in 1791. At that time, I actually did visit some real panopticon in Netherlands, because this random project lasts for 1 year, and during 1 year it's totally happening on the website. I also did some installation and performance at the Venice Society in Amsterdam in the place called Theatre Panopticon, where Rembrandt used to do the painting. So the panopticon was, at the time the prison was built, considered that you have the central tower that's a sort of all surveillance tower that you can look all over the whole circular prison cells. Of course, at the end, as Foucault would say, at that time the punishment is no longer a physical punishment. It's really the sense of the society of control, the feeling of being surveillance all the time. This actually creates probably more of a threat to a human existence, and of course it's really the control surveillance mechanism we're talking about. Now, as when I would start doing the research again on the prison system and on the surveillance system, of course also realized that there is no more, it's no more important to have this physical prison cell anymore, because if we think about the world that we live in, particularly in certain society, I think in China, particular as an example, and recently in France, also decided to realize these facial recognition surveillance throughout the whole city. And the whole facial recognition, what I call it is really the algorithm of social, kind of your social credit, being surveyed and being, the whole society can be built on your personal data, where you go, what you do. I'm going to show quickly, maybe this is a good document to show from the Washington Post.
China's pursuing an ambitious plan to create an omnipresent video surveillance network. The Shu Lea or Sharp Eyes project aims to extend and integrate video surveillance from cities into villages and from roads into residential compounds. It aims to use artificial intelligence, big data and deep learning to analyse this mountain of video evidence, to work out who's doing what, where and when. These cameras are looking at a road junction and they're identifying everything that's passing through. They're looking at cars, reading the number plates, and they're looking at pedestrians, classifying pedestrians according to their age, their gender, what kind of clothes they're wearing, even what kind of hairstyles they have.
China, the surveillance, facial recognition surveillance system is actually called the Sharp Eyes. China is boasting that they have 200 million surveillance cameras over surveilling 1.4 billion population. I have always wondered, of course, the system there is about detecting the criminal, detecting social credit. I think we all live in this kind of credit system unless you decide to go off-grid. Every time you go to the supermarket when you shop, if you have Fidelity card, the whole transit system in London, particularly run by the Oyster card, everything we are, this is a much bigger topic. Maybe I don't have time to get in there, but I start wondering also about how the surveillance technology is used for people who committed sexual crimes, or simply because of gender. We're not talking about maybe just in this particular case with Jennifer Saunders, just being plain, I think he is a transgender person, but there is no way for him to come out, and so the prison terms was for 6 years for playing around, or I think the case, if you read the core document, it's very hard to really figure out what the truth or something. Anyway, quickly, I just introduced the installation 3x3x6. I call it a transpond fiction, queer, and anti-colonial imagination hacking the operating system or the history of sexual subjection. The reason being that I want to, I also have, I think a lot of my work is really about enactment, or I wouldn't call it interactive, but I really want to enact, the activism or enactment is very important for me. The elements, how do I pawn the audience or activate the audience? Not a simple interactive click and something happen, that kind of game, but how do we actually, by experience my work, there's something that touched you, that you will want to do something, when I decided to work with the idea of this particular location of Prigioni, the prison of the 16th century, and I decided to deal with the whole panopticon, from the actual panopticon to the digital panopticon, I also think about how could I make, there's actually 4 different gallery space. In the beginning, I think I was very simple. I decided that I really want to build a tower. I really want to build the surveillance tower. However, this is my sketch. It's like a baby one, but anyway, it works. The idea in the beginning, I just keep thinking about these sort of surveillance tower, also a very phallic symbol, as you would know, and instead, however, I really want to invert the panopticon. So rather than surveilling, I wanted to be projecting different image, or become more active rather than just looking at the prisoner. So there is this question about how do I do it, and things like that. So here become a simple sketch that become a configuration of how to deal with these 4 gallery space. From the top left, the bigger one is gallery A, then we go into the gallery B and C, then there's a small room, I would call it the gallery D. Certain conceptual decision is that I would make the first gallery A a sort of projection surveillance tower that would have different image input into the. Then I also start study different criminal cases, particularly sexual criminal cases. The one that got into trouble, the people who got incarcerated for sexual provocation or gender affirmation. So in a certain way, I really need to build this installation more as a kind of immersive environment to counter. For me, it's more like a collective counter the oppression in a way. So basically, it all kind of start going on, but it's a luxury to have the whole prison to myself, isn't it? Anyway, these are more sketches, but then of course I work with a team of software and hardware designers, so we start building it. So this particular projection tower ended up to have 10 projector going around 5 rings, and the projector would be running, would be actually turning. On the right is the system control queue, that's for gallery D. I had to go, very difficult to explain this piece because it's a bit complicated. At the same time, the whole space with all the hardware is totally controlled by Wi-Fi network system. So in terms of what I project, or how different things will be played. I will get into talk about the 10 cases I finally chosen to depict the cases, to tell different stories or different crimes committed while these people are incarcerated. However, as I say, I did take from the core documents, I did a lot of study, did some research, went to talk to the lawyer, went to some case, I actually visited the prisoners, and from there I sort of write a whole script, and the script was trying to be different, or actually it's not documentary at all, it's not like a simple documentary or simple account of the story. We will get into that. But meanwhile, quickly show a few installation pictures. This is what it turns out to be. In the gallery A, there's 10 vertical screens. Each depict the 10 cases, the criminals, the so-called sexual criminals, that I make an introduction on them to enter into the space. Maybe I can show very quickly a quick introduction video. It's really about how these, I guess the way I would call it would be the algorithm or gender and sexuality in the digital age. How the surveillance camera, the facial recognition is able to detect your so-called obscene behavior or certain criminal, certain crime that you committed and different things. However, I think one of the matter is about the facial recognition software, and how do I actually, again, I really want to subvert the software. And so actually we did a lot of manipulation, taking from the facial recognition software, and it was turned into different applications, so I will get in that. But for the 10 projection tower, first I show how, I don't know if there should be a video, no? It's not playing.
If you click on the image itself.
Oh, coming back. Oh, this is still the slide, sorry. Okay, so yeah, so then it's quite, there's quite a different elements on this projection image actually. So first I introduce 10 characters of each crime committed. Then I make a dance up. I invite people to actually upload a dance video to interrupt the installation, and actually the dance video is an inspiration from a particularly young woman named Medeh Hohabi, an Iranian girl, and she was imprisoned or detained because she was sending the dance video onto the Instagram. So I decided to, there was actually quite a movement called Dance is Not a Crime, so I also make an art for people to put a dance video, and then it also get projected, onto the screen. In the gallery space, actually, when you enter the gallery space, I also set up 2 3D surveillance camera, and I do facial recognition. However, then I modify everything, so it's hard to say. All the dance video, all the surveillance image, all got modified into different avatar display. The movement of the dance video, each person's dance video, we actually only on the app, it still exists, 3x3x6.com app, or you can go to the website 3x3x6.com. You can still upload the dance video and be projected there. The matter is that we actually track the movement of the dance video, and then according to the movement, we turn it into a different avatar. I think there's a lot of, in a sort of certain, there's a kind of artistic genre now also about how do we confuse the facial recognition, or, in a way, how do you subvert this particular apparatus imposed by the state. So these are just some installation photo. And then we got into the B and C gallery, the 2 other galleries. There's 10 monitors, and each display a case, all these cases, which I will talk about a bit. And each case is 10 minutes long. And so there's 10 films, 10 minutes long. And so in gallery B and C, you can actually listen to the video on the track. Then we get into this back to gallery A, where you can look into gallery D. And the gallery D have this tower, which is 30-degree inclination, that have all the control system of the installation installed right there. So everything, actually, I think this is the most important part for me to actually reveal the backbone apparatus of the surveillance system. So if you look at all these different monitors, all the programming code, all the surveillance footage when it first captured until it was recaptured or remodified, it's all there. You can see the surveillance camera. It's made very clear there was big, disclaimer. When you get into the building, it's said very clear by cross this particular staircase that you agree to be surveyed. Yeah. This is the entrance. Have the particular. I don't really have the introduction video, but it's okay. I'm gonna go quickly to talk about the 10 cases I researched and why I call it gender play, gender fucking. At the same time, I call my script writing and the way I shot it is called transplant fiction. By gender play, gender fucking, that I did quite a few changes in the traditional casting. For example, I will cast quite differently gender, so a male criminal person can be played by a female, or I also changed racial connotation, racial typing. For example, maybe, I get into the case. Maybe Casanova, for example, I have a case of Casanova, but Casanova was played by a Taiwanese American. So there's a lot of these kind of gender play and gender fucking. Oh, here is the video. So I will show very quickly the, it doesn't work. The introduction, yeah? This is, of course, an edited version, but otherwise each excerpt is 1 minute long. The song you heard actually is playing as a loop in Gallery A. So meanwhile these each episode actually also with title of what kind of crime they committed is playing as 1 minute and with the tower turning and sometimes when the tower stay in one place where I show the criminal, but then at the same time the tower turning, you see the image from the surveillance camera, you see the image from the video, dance video people uploaded. One thing is, so the sound actually is from a work by a sound artist named Jasmine, and these sounds are actually taken from the surveillance camera data and rendered into the sound. So just to be clear. I'm going to go very quickly into 10 cases. Case number 1, Casanova. I have named every cases with an X, meaning there's many cases like Casanova, for example. So basically, I have 10 cases and I have 3 classical cases, the names that you probably would know, you should know. There's 7 cases that's more contemporary that you probably won't know. But I decided for the classical case, I can use the real name. For the 7 contemporary cases, because of different legal reasons, I have to not to use the real name, but I decide to name everyone also with an X for the meaning of being multiple, because every other case, when I talk about any of these kind of possible sexual crimes committed or because of gender ID issues, actually is not one case only globally. So at the end, it was very hard for me to bring up many cases. So these are just some stills, screen capture from the film itself. Casanova was arrested in Venice in 1755, and he was never really charged, and he never know why he got prisoner. He got prison, actually. He did manage to escape after 1 year. One thing we decided, we did some research, and we think that he was in prison because he's promoting condoms. So actually you see a lot of big condoms here. We thought that he was promoting condom and he got into trouble with the religion sector. Most famous case with Marquise de Sade. Here is played by a female. Marquise de Sade is someone actually was in prison for more than 32 years throughout his lifetime. He's probably been to every prison in France, even in I think at the end he was actually being put in the mental hospital. And he was under house arrest, and he was also in Bastille prison. It was in Bastille prison he wrote the 120 days of sodomy. Again, Sartre, when he got really old and always in prison, but he eats well somehow, he got actually very large, but here we keep his big weight, but we switch a female to play Sartre. Foucault, Michel Foucault, again is Foucault X, this particular case. Foucault, maybe this is something not many people know, that he was actually in prison in Poland when he was working as kind of French attaché in the center there. He was tripped and kind of had to reveal he's homosexual and was put into the prison. We have this case called BX, what we call the case of the female castrating men crime genre. There's a few cases, quite a few cases about women who castrate penis, either husband or lovers because of sexual abuse or different reason. But we took a case like this. But actually, every time I took a case, at the end, I sometimes have to combine many cases in terms of court documents and all that. The next case is MWX. Is actually a case with a German. It's a case happened in German. Again, it's a man, and I find a woman performer to play this character. Meg Weiss is the real name. The case is about he is actually a carnival. He met someone. This is sort of the a kind of particular fetish desire, or SM. He met someone at a carnival cafe and proposed that he really wanted to eat someone if someone would like to be eaten. They signed a contract. He actually finally have a date with the person and finally kill him and eat him piece by piece over a year. This case, 00X, happened in Taiwan. It's a case about a gay person who practiced chemsex, kind of orgy, throughout, it's I don't know if you know the chemsex, it's like an orgy, particularly with the gay community, and also with a lot of people who are HIV positive, they did not reveal their HIV positive status to their partners. His particular case, because of this, mostly for not revealing HIV status, he was in prison now 12 years, sentenced for 12 years in Taiwan. The DS case is actually the rape by deception case, which also taken from many different cases, including the one we just heard. And next is a case with RX. This is a Ramadan case. It's a very quite notorious case, and if you live in France, it's the most controversial case with a Muslim scholar from Switzerland. He's actually born in Switzerland. He's totally European. He is leading the Center of Muslim Studies at Oxford University in UK. But he was accused of sexual assault to a couple French women. He ended up having to go to Paris to sort of admit himself, and he was put into a 3x6 prison cell near Paris. Yeah, that was the case. This particular case, I call it LX, is a Chinese girl who is posting sort of sexy video, I wouldn't particularly call it porno, on the internet, and she is now in prison for 3 years. The last case is from Africa. I took some study from South Africa and Zimbabwe, and it's a funny case about these women were accused of harvesting male sperm for profit. So there are a case called female sperm bandits, and it was quite somehow was in the news throughout 2011 to 2013, and there seems to be a lot of sperm bandits on the highway in South Africa, so the government actually had to make a warning on this. I hope that you do have a chance to see the work, if you still can make it to Venice, or some of them maybe you already seen it. But I am actually gonna take a little bit time and show you this particular case of rape by deception that had taken few cases of male-female gender play, or maybe not so much a play, but really people in transition from female to male or male to female, transgender or transsexual person, and because of that they got into trouble. So DX, transgender person accused in the 2010s of having sex with a woman without revealing his gender status, sentenced to 6 years of prison for sexual assault. This legal charge is known as rape by deception. It's actually had more cases, but I'm going to show this, and it will be 10 minutes. Yeah.
Quoting from Regina versus Saunders, Court Documents 1991 Crown Court Trial and the 1992 Court of Appeal hearing.
What do you understand by sexual intercourse? If a person says had sexual intercourse, what do you understand that to mean?
Making love.
Inserting the penis inside the girl's vagina. Do you know what an erection is? Did you ever see whether he appeared to have one of those? Did anything at any stage give you any concerns about whether he was a boy or a girl?
No.
How did that feel to you when he began to make love to you?
I asked if he had got a banana because shop felt like that, and he said he was going to shock me.
What happened then?
I asked him why. He said that when he was 14 he could not ejaculate, so he had to have a tube put down to help him, and it was the tube that was shop.
Tube put down where?
His penis.
Did you believe that?
I do not know anything about males when they cannot ejaculate, so I did not know.
Was that all the time when he was inside you? How often do you say you had sexual intercourse with this person, Jimmy?
Numerous occasions.
Sorry? Can you be a little bit more precise as to how many times you say you had sexual intercourse with Jimmy?
About 6 times a week.
I do not want to embarrass you any more than I have to in the circumstances, but you say on none of these occasions did you ever see this person's penis?
Never.
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 And each and every occasion you are saying that she penetrated you?
He penetrated me.
The defendants contacted several girls, ages 15 to 16, for acquaintance and relationship purposes. The defendant, female, born in 1981, was dressed as a man, while the other defendant, male, referred to her in masculine terms as Kobe. She also refers to herself in masculine terms. The first indictment describes 4 cases in which the defendants became acquainted with 4 of the complainants, with whom the defendant created romantic and friendly relations while pretending to be a man. On the grounds of these facts, the first indictment attributes the following offenses to the defendants: conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor, impersonation as another person. The second charge attributes to the defendant the committing of an obscene act. The third indictment, the complainant A.S., a minor who was not yet 16, fell in love with the defendant. The defendant tried to have sexual intercourse with the complainant on 3 different occasions while trying to infiltrate an unknown object to the complainant's genitalia that was somehow attached to her body. Also, the defendant kissed the same complainant on her lips, neck, and breasts, and caressed her breasts. Impersonating another person, he who presents himself falsely as another person, alive or dead, deliberately deceiving, is sentenced to imprisonment 5 years. Impersonation is defined in the dictionary as appearing, disguising, presenting oneself in a false manner. Linguistically, the expression standing for or impersonating another person bears the interpretation of impersonating another sex. The person who presents himself as male, even though he has female genitals, certainly one of today's criteria to distinguish between male and female, fulfills the actual element of impersonation. The fraud, standing at the base of the appellant's conviction, lies in the presenting the erotic acts as a part of the psychological treatment, as a distinction of erotic acts as such on social backgrounds. The difference between an erotic act as such and the sexual act as a part of a psychological treatment is the difference that falls to the essence of the act, and therefore the consent to the sexually as part of the psychological treatment should be seen as a consent to a different act in relation to the actual erotic act that was committed. The defendant suffers from a problem in her sexual identity. She feels like a man in the body of a woman, and indeed, the outer appearance of the defendant is as the appearance of a young man-boy. Of a man's, in all aspects, a man trapped in a woman's body. It is possible for a person to look like a male and act like a male and have female genitals and the opposite. However, when the latter linked to an intimate social relationship with his fellow, he must reveal to the other side of his being, male or female, in a narrow sense that is currently accepted in society.
Raimundo Coronado Leo, who allegedly was denounced by his wife Adriana Bulgoire because Raimunda had deceived Adriana. Raimundo was officially accused of making false statements. He pretended to be a man while he was born a woman. Raimundo seems to have been living all his life, embodying a masculine subjectivity. While in prison, Raimundo fell gravely ill. Upon his death, the newspaper headline writes, "The torment of Mazatlan is over. The woman who married other women has died."
Snake was a Chinese legend that the snake actually from the kind of more they pretend they're snake. They actually convert themselves to humans so they can have sex with humans. Anyway, so it's quite late now, so I'll just finish here.
You want to take some questions still? If there are questions, then
yes, please.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much indeed, and I just hand over to the audience as it's late, but one or two, but one, please. Yes, please.
Did you use the dance movies which have been submitted by the audience to actually morph the faces of the criminals onto the dance movies, or because there is an interface now where you can not only monitor but you can also fake part of the problem, that all this surveillance data can also be faked and made to frame somebody for a crime he didn't do.
Of course. Yeah, but for the installation, I really want, because it's really about different cases, so this particular dance video case, and I open up an app for people to able to upload the dance up to kind of break into the installation. So at the same time, I think actually, when I was preparing this piece, I have to talk to the lawyers at the Venice Biennale office all the time because of the data protection law, because, do I have the right to capture people's face? Do I need them to sign a piece of paper, or finally we do a 10-language disclaimer at the door? So, yeah.
Is there another spontaneous?
I would actually ask the performers who did the performance, how do you feel when you were reading it as a kind of gender role change? Do you still feel something?
I thought it was very interesting and a fantastic experience. I loved it.
Great. Yeah, I think
it was interesting. You said before that we should. You said to me that I should not express any emotions, but it was difficult not to do it while performing for some reason.
Yeah, I think it's true. That you can kind of see. I was quite amazed, like when we did that core session, everybody was so quiet. In all my films, in these 10 films and the court case, all these reading, I use text-to-speech software from the internet. So it's just to avoid any particular expression. So
I say thank you that we had the chance to do it, because I really appreciated the moment that we have had this experience and method of playing also a role.
Yeah, you feel, I think actually also it was,
You want to say one?
No, I really think I feel it's kind of the power. I feel kind of powerful to to question someone. Although this is nothing really to do with gender, like to be a man or a female, of course, to question someone. But this is, it's a sense of. I feel this. I think it's quite interesting to listen to a man playing this roles to playing as a role as woman.
Yeah, I think the reverse gender is very interesting for me. In terms of, also the first time I hear this test really read by a person, and I think it's true. I do feel, playing, who played the other,
she had two
but it was also quite,
she's the only one I know,
quite
actually.
striking in that way that you feel like, some of the language is just so, for me, it's unbelievable, like kind of, like quite, Okay, so we.
And it was also really interesting how you put us in the audience position at the court. So everybody here attending the court session was also as a role play attendances of the court. So that's also the reason why we kind of really got really silent and really got, how will it continue? Will they reveal something? And also the pressure was really on the defendant and on the very situation. So we as an audience weren't just here the audience, but also at the play.
May I also say, it was really also an adventure at Secure. We were setting this up just when you came in. That's why we were already playing and designing, and we were shifting also the settings. So
it's
thank
all
you for
totally
that.
improvised, actually.
And so for
everything,
it
including
was
shopping in the
again, but the
supermarket for
rules,
the pop.
we went, when I picked her up, we went
These
to
could
the
be the what you call it, the evidence which we can eat. when we have a drink.
Right, which you should eat right
Well,
now.
I'm gonna see who's gonna cut the sausage.
Bon appetit and thank you very much.
Enjoy